and welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. I am Hollis. With me, as always, is Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Hollis. I have to say, every time I say, hi, Hollis, I'm reminded of the time I met Bob Dylan.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a story worth telling.
Yeah, I thought so. And I have to tell it eventually.
I just got to jump in. We did Wonder Boys. Bob Dylan did the main song from Wonder Boys. How come I didn't get a Dylan story then?
You want to go back and cut it in?
Nobody watched it.
Put it in the DVD extras.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
Anyway, it's pretty simple. A friend of mine, his parents are friends of Bob's. I believe the dad was his accountant. The dad's name was Marty Feldman, not the actor.
The bug-eyed accountant.
Yes. Your taxes are abnormal. So anyway, he's like, hey, you want to come see Bob? We're going to go see him at, I think it was Foxwoods. It was out. We were sitting outside. He's like, it'll be fun. And afterwards, we'll go and you can meet him. And I was like, oh, absolutely. So we went to the show and it rained. It rained the whole time. And there was no cover for the stage, really. So Bob was getting rained on. He did most of the show in a hooded rain thing. When the show was over and it came time to like, hey, let's go say hi to Bob, Bob's handlers were like, listen, we were going to have a hangout, but Bob got rained on all night and he's cold and wet and he's done. So we're just going to do a line. You all walk by and say hi to Bob. I was like, whatever. I've never been within a mile of Bob. So,
Wow.
So we all were walking through and Bob was very nicely, hi, thanks for coming. Hi, thanks for coming. Hi. And he was very, he kept it simple and just said hi or hello to every single person.
Good game. Yeah, right. Good game.
Totally like that. And then when he got to my friend's mom, she goes, hi, Bob. And he looked up and he goes, hi, Alice. He like lit up. They were friends.
Oh, that's great.
Goes, oh, hi, Alice. And then we were driving home and Alan was like, I'm sorry, you didn't really get to meet Bob. And I was like, I got to see Bob Dylan go, hi, Alice. And then every time we start, I'm like, hi, Alice. It's very close. Gotcha. Yeah, and it reminds me of it every time.
Wow. Yeah. Nice. As a side note, I love that I start saying I want us to have half-hour episodes, and then you launch into Bob Dylan.
Yeah, let me tack 5 minutes on the front end without even mentioning the movie. Yeah,
I just have to say, is that Han Solo's phaser or whatever? His laser gun.
The fit of the day is Han Solo's blaster. That's called a blaster.
Blaster, of course.
And the words behind it are, this machine kills fascists.
Right, and then, of course.
The small print is and Rhodians, which is what Greedo was, a Rhodian.
Oh, nice. This machine kills fascists, which used to be on Woody Guthrie's guitar, which was a big influence on Bob Dylan.
See? It's all synergy.
Yeah, come full circle.
This was the first, when I was teaching myself Illustrator, this was the drawing I did to teach myself how to do line work.
Oh, wow. Pretty intricate.
Yeah, that's why I picked it. It took me like a month. And then I was like, I got to put it on something.
Nice.
But I would say this machine mostly killed rival bounty hunters and imperial cops.
Yeah. I'm rocking a Clash t-shirt that simply
I've never seen that.
It's one of my favorite pics of Joe Strummer. It's Joe Strummer punching out lyrics on an old typewriter.
Is that the paper hanging down? Yep. Nice. Yeah, that's nice. That's a lot of ink, though. That would be sweaty on a hot day.
That's why I got the AC rocket. I wore it because I thought it was, it was the closest thing I have to a shirt with someone writing on it.
Oh, yeah.
This week, we are launching into the 2023 masterpiece, American Fiction.
He looks to me to see if I disagree. It was great. It was great. It was way better than I expected.
It's so good. It is based on the 2001 novel Erasure by Percival Everett. It is written and directed by Cord Jefferson, who wrote the screenplay himself based on the novel. This film was nominated for a few awards at the 2023 Academy Awards, and I wanted it to win Best Picture. It did not. It missed out because of Oppenheimer. And Jeffrey Wright, who stars in this, missed out on Best Actor to Cillian Murphy, who was in Oppenheimer. It did, however, win what I always think of as the most important award, because every film starts with a script. It won Best Adapted Screenplay. Most of the films I love that were up for any awards wind up winning for the screenplay.
Right, yeah.
Because it's political, and the big blockbusters usually get that heat.
It's almost an award for the smarter movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oppenheimer, not that nuclear fission and history isn't smart stuff, but it's just telling of history.
Yeah.
This was a feat to tell this story well.
This film ate like a meal. This was
my God,
really
so
satisfying. Yes.
Yeah,
a lot to
rich.
sink your teeth into, and a lot of stuff that stays with you after the movie is done. And it's one of those movies, Dave, that I've talked about in the past, like the Royal Tenenbaums, like Wonder Boys. After I watch this movie, I feel like I read a good book. It's satisfying on so many levels. And what's funny is I just want to bring up when I first pitched watching this film to you, and I told you who was in it, it took you a while to realize that Jeffrey Wright was a guy you loved in Westworld. Yes. Dave is putting on glasses.
These are literally the glasses that Jeffrey Wright's character wears in Westworld.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Westworld guy, but he was the best thing.
I dropped it, actually. It lost me. Westworld lost me. But he was terrific. Anyway, I loved his character so much, and I loved his glasses, and I went and got them, and I've been wearing the same pair. I've been getting new pairs of the same design ever since then.
Oh, that's great. Jeffrey Wright stars in this as Thelonious Ellison. His friends and family all refer to him as Monk. His name is sort of a mashup. There's Thelonious Monk, the great jazz pianist, who is my favorite jazz artist of all time. And Ellison has a couple of connotations. It's mostly Ralph Ellison, who wrote Invisible Man, not the horror thing, but rather something that deals with the Black experience. And also there's a little bit of Harlan Ellison was a writer as well. It's very, very literate name.
Yeah, it's a smart thing to do. I feel like besides sort of a tip of a hat, it also subliminally says like, oh yeah, he's a writer. If you choose an author that doesn't immediately spring to mind which author, you're like, Ellison, that's an author.
Yeah.
And like Hemingway is too much, but Ellison is just right.
Right. I want to tell my Jeffrey Wright story very quickly. I met Jeffrey Wright very briefly in the locker room of the Lone Star Men's Club, which was a gym that was in Midtown. And I was going there as a guest of a friend to play basketball, and met him in the locker room. And he was very down to earth and friendly. And I was chatting with him while he changed. That is also the day, incidentally, that I learned that Chris Noth has one testicle.
Did he did the 1 foot up on the bench and showed you?
Yeah. But yeah, Jeffrey Wright is just one of the greatest actors. I think with the death of Philip Seymour Hoffman, Jeffrey Wright is the greatest actor of his generation, if he wasn't already before that. Speaking of the great Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace, John Ortiz is in this, who was Philip's partner in Labyrinth Theater Company. He stars as Monk's agent.
He's great.
He's great. And the two of them together are great. They build a history on screen that you can see in their comfortableness with each other.
They've been in business together and have become friends and have a patter that is supernatural. And not supernatural, but super organic.
Yeah, totally. And Monk is a writer. He is up against it. His dad committed suicide about 7 years prior. His mom is battling dementia. He just lost his job teaching because of how sensitive his students are these days. He, said a couple of inappropriate things, and he's on the outs. His sister, who we love when we meet her, Tracy Ellis Ross, who's incidentally Diana Ross's daughter, she is fantastic in this. She's here all too briefly. He loses his sister. He's set upon on all sides. His book that he's been pitching, his agent has been pitching, isn't getting a deal because everyone is rushing for more lowbrow things and things that kind of are almost, a stereotype of the Black experience. And he's kind of at his wit's end when we meet him.
Yeah, and you might say, like, wow, that's an awful lot to do to the character. But such is life. I mean, is that a lot? Hollis, I ask you, is that a lot to happen to a person? It's about average, I think you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your life.
As someone dealing with the death of his father in November, and my mother battling dementia and being bedridden, and dealing with the loss of my friend who died recently at a very young age. Yeah, it's
and no one's buying this book.
And no one's, yeah. And I'm currently writing a novel. So, like,
there's
a lot to it. And it's funny to me that, we as a society, we almost kind of subconsciously separate a writer and his work from just the writer's regular life. You just think of this writer as like sitting in a room 24/7, churning out things. And it's like, no, they have to write on the back of a clipper ship on a raging sea. That is their life half the time, and he is dealing with a lot. And I just want to mention that the main crux of this movie, which is so great, is he's kind of taken aback by the runaway success of a book called Weeze Lives in the Ghetto by Sintara Golden. What a beautiful name. So sonorous, first-time writer, played by Issa Rae, who is fantastic in this.
Yeah.
It's something that he sees as playing to the lowest common denominator. He sees it as an affront, as a guy with a doctorate who, writes these critically acclaimed books that no one buys. And she is pleasing the marketplace. And as he sees it, absolving white people of their guilt somehow by being able to, digest this pablum. But, she's on her own path. And he's coming from a place of lack, and that someone else's success somehow impacts him.
And he's a little too convinced that it's because his is good and the other is worthless. He's not entirely wrong, but he's way too convinced of it. And he's a little over the top about it because, as she points out, she worked very hard on her book.
Yeah. She paid her dues like he paid his. They were just different dues. And he's very didactic about it. He's very black and white about the whole issue. No pun intended.
Way too much. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
That was a good pun.
Thank you. He is so frustrated that the main thrust of this film is, he's having a hard time financially. He doesn't know what to do. His books aren't selling. He just throws up his hands and he writes a book like Sintara's book.
The act of writing it is partly him saying, I could write that book with my hands tied behind my back. I could write that book in a weekend.
And he does, kind of. We get that impression.
And he does. He even says, send them this. I'm making a point.
He's trying to make a point, yeah.
He's trying to make a point. At no point does he think it's going to make him a lot of money. Or maybe in the back of his mind, he says, hey, maybe my pablum will sell.
Or maybe this will kind of wake people up and they'll be like, oh my God, was Sintara's bullshit as well?
Yeah. It's an attempt to shine a light on the bullshit. And he ends up adding to the bullshit, amplifying the bullshit.
And also
what he thinks of is bullshit. She claims it's not.
Right. Also, in a world without irony, how do you accomplish something ironic? How do you create satire in a world that's so misguided and stupid that they don't understand the real thing? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And there's this great section in the film where the TV is on and
Oh
it's
my God,
playing
I
in the
know exactly what
background.
you're talking about. Yeah.
And this is what the voiceover says. And it's cut together all of the films that are premiering this week on this network. You're watching Black Story Month on WHN, which I take to be the white network,
Yeah.
celebrating the diversity of the African American experience. And it's all crack smoking, unwed mothers, police chases, slave narratives, and the
Yeah.
usual downbeat depictions of Black people that reinforce stereotypes. It's brilliant. It's such a beautiful wink on the television.
And I think
And
WHN is W honky. I do.
that's great. That's even better.
Yeah.
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 In the book that he writes, he starts out and he's like, my pathology. And then he erases it, my pathology. Like,
Yeah.
he's not even letting them off the hook with the title. He wants to do it right from the beginning. And he
But
chooses
even
Stagger Lee, like Stagger Lee.
so let's talk about, you know, writing a book.
Yeah,
You want to watch a guy write a book in a movie? That's boring. Not anymore.
not anymore.
Beautiful depiction of writing.
He sits at the desk, and in front of the desk, almost like you would do if you staged this as a play, he has on
Mhm.
one side this younger character with an eye patch playing Van Gogh. It's one of them.
Perfect. It's so
And,
good.
and his dad is played by Keith David, who you and I
Love
love in
Keith David.
everything.
Yes. So good. And the voice of Keith David is
Oh,
just golden.
my God. I have to become a success in the next number of years before Keith David is no longer with us, because I want him to do the voiceover for my eulogy or what.
Everything. Yeah. Voiceover
Everything,
for
my life.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. We get to see these two characters acting out what we take to be the main kind of thrust of his book. And it's like pulled from things he's watched on TV, The Wire,
Yeah.
New Jack City, like all
Mhm.
kinds of things. It's just this hodgepodge of kind of ghetto violence mixed with a little like Shakespearean kind of, you know,
Mhm.
father
Yeah.
stuff. You know, there's this wonderful thing where he sends it to his agent. His agent gets it. His agent calls him on him and he's like, what the fuck is this? And he's like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of what people want as Black writing. I'm sick of it. And this is an expression of how sick I am,
Yeah. That's it.
and he's shocked, Dave, when he gets a book deal, when it's like a $750,000 preemptive book deal.
Yeah. In fact, when his agent calls him and says you got a book deal, he assumes that it's for his actual
Right.
the book
The
he worked hard on.
Persians. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's great is too, Dave, he says, no one's ever offered this much to me. And he's like,
Mhm.
this is you. You are you. His agent has to
Right.
tell him. But he's like,
Right.
now
Right.
he's like jealous of Stag. He's like,
Yeah.
it's
That's a good
great.
point. He remains jealous of Stag.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stag
Yeah.
becomes another kind of
His girlfriend
figure.
likes Stag.
Yeah.
It bothers him that his girlfriend likes Stag.
Yeah, it's true. And
Yeah.
I'm decided that his mother's health crisis and all of the money she needs to put her in a home is why he accepts the publishing deal.
Oh yeah.
It does a good job of setting up the stakes where he needs to go forward with it.
It really does, because they've also said, I mean, I get the impression that he has more scruples. He would not have taken that money. He would have said, "You losers, that's me. I was joking." He would have waved it in their face and said, "No, thank you." But his situation, which his agent, even though his agent is his friend, he's still an agent.
Mm-hmm.
He, isn't your mom kind of sick?
Yeah. And he makes
How,
a great case.
yeah,
He with the Johnny Walker, different
mhm.
labels. He's like, just because you write a red doesn't mean you can't write blue. There's blue, which is the best Johnny Walker, and then there's red, which is shit, and then there's black, which is a little less shit. But like people just want to get drunk sometimes. They don't need the blue label.
Well, they said
Um,
Lancaster used to, he said, I make these giant movies so I can make The Swimmer. Like,
right.
he, a lot of
We
artists
see Johnny Depp do
pay,
that all the time.
pay the bills with pablum
Yeah.
and then go make whatever you want.
Hmm. Yeah. The woman at the publishing house is like, is this based on your life? He's like, you think some bitch ass college boy wrote this? And she's like, no, 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 that kind of
Of
visceral
course not.
energy cannot be taught. It's so
Yeah.
great. They
You
swallow it.
know, you might think like this movie, oh, it's like, oh, all the black people in it are so smart and well adjusted and interesting and have depth, and all the white people are completely one dimensional. It's like, yeah, yeah. How do you like
Uh,
that?
yeah.
How does that feel? There's only one kind of white person in this movie. Yeah, yeah. It was nice to see that done 100% with no exceptions. 100%. They didn't even sneak in a token intelligent white person, and I loved that about it.
Yeah.
It was great, and it was about time, it felt like.
Right.
And the black characters they are deep, and they are varied, and they are amazing. Even the drug addict, quote unquote,
Brother Cliff.
brother, it's such a redeeming portrayal of someone who's having trouble. I thought it was such a beautiful way to point out that people who you come home and find them doing cocaine with a couple of boys in their underwear in your kitchen, that's not a lost cause. That's just someone on a rocky portion of their life. They did a great job of saying, this guy is smart, he's compassionate, he's accomplished, and he's having a tough time.
I mean,
And,
that's
and
why you get Sterling K. Brown. That
Mhm.
actor is fantastic. I loved him as Christopher Darden in The People versus O.J. Simpson. He's just good in everything. And he walks an interesting line in this film. He's Monk's brother. He's only recently kind of come out as gay because his wife caught him, uh,
Mhm.
with a man, I assume. She took half of his practice. She took the house.
Like the kids.
Yeah, so he's on his outs. He says his kids hate him. So he's, like you said, it's a very rocky portion of his life. Later on, he tells Monk, he's like, I've only been gay for 5 minutes or whatever. That's how it
Mhm.
feels to him. And one of the things he regrets is that he never had the chance to come out to his father while his father was alive.
Mhm.
And it's such a great scene because Monk says to him, like, well, what if you came out to him and he had a problem with it? And he's like, yeah, but he never knew the entirety of me. And at least he'd be
Mhm.
rejecting the real me,
Yeah, that was a
you
good line.
know?
That was a good portion, yeah.
And it's such a
And
great analogy for the identity crisis Monk is having. There's a lot of that, the duality of man, the duality of putting different faces on. It runs throughout the entire film.
yeah.
Just one last thing about that publishing lady. Behind her, there are like two prints of Ruth Bader Ginsburg wearing
Oh, yeah,
boxing
yeah,
gloves.
I saw those, yeah, yeah.
And one of Ruth's boxing gloves says truth and the other says justice. And there's I guess they're like Shepherd Fairy or some kind of like,
Right, yes.
and it just underlines the hypocrisy of what she does and the lip service that she lives by while she makes this book deal for the biggest lie of any of their careers. It's little
It
subtle
also
things.
it also piles on what I was talking about earlier, which is the fucking white people. Like,
Mm.
which is, that's like, I could see someone saying, like, "Well, did it have to be so gratuitous?" And I feel like, yeah, yeah.
Does it ever when it goes the other way?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. The question of subtlety also runs through this whole film. People don't get subtlety. You have to bang them over the head with it. Hence the phonetic writing of these books. And, at one point, his agent, when he first gets the book, is like, I see what you're doing. And he goes, good, because it's not subtle.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
trying to make a point. And the fact that the point goes over everyone's head is amazing. And even throw what seemed like at the time throwaway lines, like this guy Maynard, this security guard who ends up marrying his housekeeper and close family friend. He says something to him like, "You should try to write for NCIS. It's popular."
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's this question of like doing what is in your heart, doing what you're meant to do, what you find fulfilling, or doing what's popular, and even that throwaway
Mhm.
line speaks to it.
Yeah. Again, that's why it's so important to really put Monk between a rock and a hard place,
Yeah,
because that's what gets him to be like, "Ugh, I guess I gotta take the check and not take the high road."
right.
Like, you gotta force him onto the low road with all this stuff happening.
Yeah, it's true. My Pathology, which is now retitled Fuck, because he wanted to kind of kill the deal and he thought that would do it. So he changed the title to Fuck, proving that there's no tune he can't play that they won't dance to. They want in on this. They,
Proving that again that there's no irony in a world that has gone crazy.
yeah, he's contacted by, I thought it had a title the first time I watched it, the Something Literary Award, but it's just called the Literary Award, I believe.
Yeah.
Further kind of showing that this is really an allegory. They want him to be a judge along with Sintara Golden and three white writers.
I do
So
like how that guy sells the position to him. He basically turns it down, and the guy says, "Don't forget, you'd get to judge other writers." And he goes, "I'll take it."
yeah. So many great writers started out, as critics of other writers, Herman
Mhm.
Melville, Edgar Allan Poe. Like it's a strong history of that. And writers love to say that other writers are shit. But yeah, I think it's hysterical that that's how he gets him. The book has such bestseller potential that a movie guy is interested. And he's played by Adam Brody, who I love.
Wiley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's from the OC. He's been in a lot of really cool films too. But I love the way he pitches himself as somebody who kind of, I get it. Cause he's like, I did a 30-day bid for some interstate commerce shit, like
Right, right.
he's like this guy who tries to like have street cred, but he appropriates it like everything else. He's currently working on a horror film called Plantation Annihilation, where
Mhm.
like, these white people, this white couple moves into a plantation
And the
and the
ghosts
ghosts
of
of
the
slaves
slaves. Yeah,
murder
yeah.
them. And he says it, and you can see him looking at Monk, like waiting for him to be like, oh, that's awesome.
Right, like, pretty
You know,
amazing, right? Pretty amazing.
yeah. Oh, it's so sad. But anyway, so that's more money coming in his way, like 4 million bucks. God, Dave, there's so much here that I feel like
Yeah,
you
we
couldn't
mentioned the
possibly.
housekeeper as an aside, and she is, like, one of the great characters in this.
She's
She's
wonderful.
yeah, and,
She
Monk's
exudes pure
girlfriend
love.
Monk's
Oh,
girlfriend is amazing, and also, just, like, as, like, a side note, you're gonna deal with her breakup, like, in an adult fashion. Like, she's in the middle of breaking up with someone, could have been left out, put it in to show that people are capable of being together, becoming close, and then
right.
having a reason to fall apart, and then treat each other with respect, if a bit of animosity. And like, there was so much information in her ex stopping by the house or coming by and for dinner because he still lives there, I guess. And
Hmm.
Monk being there and Monk thinking, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you weren't single," and her being like, "Actually, it's not done yet." I'm like, "You're adding this wrinkle to this already complicated film. You're taking on too much, my man." But
Yeah.
no, everything he takes on very effectively. It's almost like he's like, "I got this one chance to show African Americans as actual human beings. I'm not missing a trick." And he
Yeah.
doesn't. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
really good.
I almost got the impression that her ex was more of a factor in the book. Like maybe he went on a little bit
Possible, yeah,
and there was some
mhm.
overlap because yeah, it's odd, but like you say, there's so much in there. What it does also is it takes Monk and it gives him a little mini victory and he's like, hey, I'm hooking up here. I met someone, she seems cool, maybe this will happen. And then boom, like everything
Take
else
it
in his life, he
mm,
hits a wall when this guy comes in, he's like, "Oh, I must have misunderstood. She's just being friendly."
mhm.
And it's another downbeat in his life, and he
But it
leaves.
shows but it shows all 3 of those characters being capable adults. "Oh, I must have been wrong. I'm not mad. No one to blame. I must have misread the situation. I'll be polite to both, and I'll walk out."
Mhm.
She is okay with starting up a new thing while her old thing is going away. She knows how to treat both people with respect. The man
Yeah.
who we hardly know, while he is a little put out and is like, oh, this is the kind of thing I got to deal with coming home and there's a guy in the kitchen,
Yeah.
he is also like, are you staying for dinner? Because that would be okay. Because it's not my house anymore. It's got to be hers. Like
Mhm.
he's just showing that everyone, these people are capable. It's not going to turn into a knockdown, drag out fight. This is an actual portrayal of people. You know, I even like the fact that like this is happening. Where is it? Martha's Vineyard or something?
I
Like,
think it's supposed to be like some beachfront in Annapolis or something. Yeah.
oh, right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's a
But
lovely little beach house they have.
yeah, and that reminds me, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. When his when his sister passes away, it makes you think maybe she had some health troubles that she wasn't telling people about. She had written a prepared statement for her own ashes being spread, and it was terrific. It was uplifting, it was funny, and it was interrupted by a white dude saying, "Do you have a permit to dispose of remains?"
Yeah.
And they're
Shut
like,
the fuck up.
I swear to God, Marty," or whatever that guy's name was. That
Yeah.
was great. Yeah. I have a weird little thing to bring up from it. First of all, great scene where the mom has had a really hard day in the nursing home. She took a swing at a nurse, and it's not going well. And the brother, who's having troubles, the one we talked about, Cliff, while Monk and his girlfriend are arguing a little bit about, "You're not my accountant. Don't ask me questions about where my money comes from." Well, he's
Mhm.
starting to blow it with her. Cliff
Yeah.
walks into the room with a record. He puts the record on the phonograph, and the record is Things You Are by Tab Smith. It's like an old timey song. The interesting thing, it's instrumental for a minute and 5 seconds, which works great for the scene. And
Mhm.
then when Monk and his girlfriend are done talking, the lyrics start, and the lyrics say, "I'll tear down a mountain, do it with my bare hands. Ba 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 ba." You know, with horns in the background.
Mhm.
And I paused it and I was like, I'm standing next to a mountain. Chop it
Chop it down
down
with
with
the down of
the edge of my
mine.
hand.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't doubt if Jimmy heard that song
Jimmy
and
knew
took
every
it.
song out there, man.
Yeah. In the Tab Smith song, he says, "I'll take the pieces, I'll throw them up to heaven, and I'll build something for you." And Jimmy says, "I'll take the pieces and build an island."
Mhm.
So I think the two are related. Very little to do with the movie,
Yeah,
but
no. You know I love a
it's a
deep cut.
yeah, it's a music cut.
Right.
I don't believe there is no Jimi Hendrix episode of,
No.
PCG Mark 1.
No. She's there dancing with her son, Cliff. And at one point, they look at each other and you see such a sweet moment. And she says to him, I knew you weren't a queer.
Mhm.
And it ruins it for him. He thought they were
Yeah.
connecting on a deeper level. And instead, she reduced him to that
Mhm.
which he is most vulnerable. And Monk is like, she doesn't know what she's saying. And he's like, I'm going to wait outside. But there's a later scene with his mom with dementia that I want to bookend with that. She's in bed. Monk is talking to her. She says to him, geniuses are lonely. It all began with dad was cheating. Why didn't you leave him? And she
Mhm.
goes, he would have been more lonely without me. Why do you think he was lonely? And she said, geniuses are lonely. Then she says, you're a genius, Cliffy.
I know.
She
Yeah.
thought she was talking to his brother, Cliff, which makes it hit harder.
They're all doctors. All of
The whole
them. They're all
family.
doctors. Yeah, he has a doctorate. Cliff has a doctorate. She's a doctor at, I think, a type of Planned
Planned
Parenthood.
Parenthood.
These are smart people. She's piling a little praise on them, and then she ends the sentence with comma Cliff, Cliffy.
Yeah. It's a great thing. While they're judging the books for the literary award, all of the judges, they're taking a break. And during the lunch, and he's pissed off when fuck is nominated and he realizes he's got to like judge it. He ends up in a room alone with Sintara. And they're both connecting over how they both think the book is shit. Like she gets
Mhm.
it. She said, I just found it kind of pandering and soulless. And he goes, don't take offense at this, but how is that different from your book? Then they get into this big discussion about Black trauma porn and giving the market what it wants. And it's wonderful. The end of it is this strong kind of finish where, he's talking about the unrealized potential of Black people in this country as he sees it.
Mhm.
And she
And
hits
she
him
points
with,
out,
potential is what people see when they think what's in front of them isn't good enough. What a fucking line.
yeah,
And that is our setup. So the best scene in the film, I think, where the judges are in the room judging fuck, and the two voices of color in the room, he and
it's
Sintara,
amazing.
are
It's so
shouted
good.
down by the white judges under the guise of inclusivity.
We're going to go against your wishes. Hey to the only two black judges,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to go against your wishes. Why? Because black voices must be heard.
Yeah. The only two
We're gonna
dissenting
ignore your.
voices in the room on
It
picking
was
fuck as the
beautiful.
winner are the only two black voices.
It's
And a white
incredible.
judge lands the hysterical line. I just think it's essential to listen to black voices right now. And then
That's
they
it.
leave us with the tableau of three whites on one side of the table and Monk and Sintara on the other. It says it all.
It's almost like writing the whole movie to do that scene.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, it's
If you show people only one scene from the movie, that would be
mm,
enough.
yeah, it
Oh,
was terrific. I was literally going, "Oh my god, that was amazing!" Like out loud, you
yeah.
know.
Oh, you can't believe it because it's been delivering in subtle ways the whole way. And then
It's
it just
mostly
lands a
been,
knockout punch.
yeah, yeah. That's it. It's the knockout punch. Yeah,
I love the entire film. It's satisfying all the way through, but I feel like this film is better than its ending or
yeah.
better than its multiple possible endings. I get what they're doing and it's clever, but it's also a gimmicky ending in a film otherwise devoid of gimmicks.
It does a break. What is it? Fourth wall. It does a break the
Yeah.
fourth wall ending. Um, I said to myself, like, you know what? The movie was good enough that it doesn't bother me that this ending
No, it
is.
totally withstands it.
I kind of feel that way about books a lot because if you're reading a book for the ending, man, that's a lot of work to put in for an
Right.
ending. Like, I hope you're reading the book for the book.
The ending of a movie isn't a punchline,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
and it doesn't have to be like, I don't know. It's like this movie could suck and could be great. I'll tell you. I'll let you know as soon as I see the ending. It's like, no, this movie's great. The ending, but I also think the ending. Maybe there was no choice. I certainly don't know what the ending could have been. I'm glad the ending wasn't she cracks the door open, invites him in, and everything
Right.
she's going to take. I like that his life isn't fixed.
No, that's real. And also, I'll tell you something. I like the initial ending of the movie when we later figure out that he's, kind of writing on his feet, the ending with Adam Brody's character. The first one is just it's another kind of like jab at the industry and what they do because he gives this film guy a perfectly good ending.
Wiley. Yeah.
Yeah, Wiley. He gives him a great ending. He's at the podium accepting the award on behalf of Staggar Lee. And he says, I've got a confession to make. And then we smash to black. Wiley points out what we already know about the way the world works and how films are. People can't fill in the blanks for themselves. They can't take oblique endings. They need an ending that marches up Fifth Avenue with a fucking flag. They
Mhm.
need something that tells them everything that happened. So, did she forgive him? Did he go to jail? What happened? So he creates another one and then another one. And the last ending that we're left with, Wiley loves it. And
Yeah.
it's just another version of his book.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And
And
it's
he takes
literally
it.
slow motion, bullet riddled author, the award mistaken for a gun,
Yeah.
taken down in a hail of gunfire from racist cops. I mean, Wiley's not wrong. That is the money making ending. And then I
And it's
watched a few.
satisfying in its way for the film.
Yeah, yeah. And I watched a few interviews with the filmmaker, and he's like, I got suddenly on television a lot, and a lot of people like my movie. And he's like, there's a lot of parallels between the character and myself.
Yeah. What I love about the ending, at one point, Cliff earlier on, it's like, people want to love you, Monk. I don't know why, but they do. You got to
Yeah, that's a
let
good
people
line.
love you. Let people love all of you. And then at the end, it seems to me like he finally gets it. He's like, you know what? I'll produce a bottle of Red Label.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean I'm that. And he's kind of made his peace with it. He's like, look, it's no different than taking a stipend for being a judge. It's no different than taking a salary for being a teacher. I'm putting another script into the world that at least is a little bit smarter than other ones to help my mom be in a care facility, you know?
Yeah, you know what I do when I'm not making thumbnails and various art for Sesame Street? I'm making promos for The Real Housewives.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a sweet gig.
I mean, it's a small gig.
Mm,
They're sort of inner industry promos, but they're plentiful, they're
right.
easy, and I'll take it. One for them,
Um,
two for me.
eh, my big takeaway from the ending, what I really liked from it, is that Monk and his brother Cliff are in a much better place. It
Oh, great
seems,
last joke too.
yeah, great last joke. They're driving away in a convertible after Monk having nailed the ending to the
The
film that's
pitch,
going to
the
get
ending
made,
pitch.
the
Yeah.
ending pitch. Their life is going to be great from now on, it seems, and they're going to have a better relationship. They're back in each other's lives,
And I
you
feel
know?
like it wasn't told, but it was telegraphed that Cliff has accepted this housekeeper character, Lorraine, as
Mhm.
his mother, as his new mother, because Lorraine and Maynard don't judge Cliff.
Right.
Your family. Cliff is sitting at a coffee table
With Coke.
just littered with cocaine
Yeah.
while his boy toys are in the kitchen making eggs. And they accept Cliff and they say, "No, of course you'll be at our wedding."
Hmm.
He says, I'll go." And they, no, I believe that is the acceptance he uses to start getting his life back on track. He drove to pick up his brother at the pitch meeting.
Right.
He's driving away. He looks healthy. He sounds healthy. And he says, "Who are you going to get to play me?" He
Yeah.
said, "We're
Tyler
looking at
Perry.
Tyler Perry."
A
Earlier in the
callback.
film, someone mistakes him for Tyler Perry in a
Yeah.
very funny manner.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else, one last little wrinkle of subtlety. You know, the film is front loaded in beautiful ways that you might not even realize the first time you watch the film. But like his father killed himself. His father was having multiple affairs, and Monk was ignorant to all of it
Mm,
because the father kept secrets. He didn't keep them well from other members of the family, but because Monk loved him so much, he didn't know any
yeah,
of the secrets.
yeah, he
He
had
was happy.
blinders.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
too happy to see that. And there's this whole thing that runs through the film about secrets and how it eats Monk alive. His greatest success, he can't share and tell anyone about. And even if he wanted to, he doesn't want to because he's embarrassed, because it's the worst thing he's written. He was trying to create crap, and it's better received than the finely crafted masterpieces he's been giving them.
I actually would have enjoyed watching him tell Coraline that the
Yeah,
book was his. I think they could have had I would have liked if him, because the scenes with him and Coraline and Cliff, they were on the verge of like a nice three-person friendship, and they worked really well together. And I would have enjoyed to see Coraline's reaction to
well, you know what? They hint
to his
at it.
confession. Yeah,
They hint that she will go to the awards, possibly, that they will have some kind of relationship. I mean, she hasn't answered his calls yet, but you're left hopeful, and you're left hopeful because of his relationship with his brother and the fact that he now is open to him. He's let his brother in, and that speaks to a future success possibility with Coraline.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
It's an uplifting ending. I always say I love happy endings. I was allowed to make my own happy ending when they were shuffling through possible endings. And then his brother picking him up to me was a happy ending
absolutely, absolutely,
because their
and
relationship was strong.
yeah. And I just want to mention how amazing Leslie Uggams was. She was just this beautiful actress I knew as a kid in the 70s and 80s who
I
I
knew
was
her from
just
commercials.
exactly.
Hi, I'm Leslie Uggams. And
Yeah,
I always was just like, I guess she's somebody. I never
right.
really knew who.
I
Yeah.
thought she did like pantyhose or something. I know I saw her on like Love Boat a couple of times and things like that. She was that kind of celebrity, but just
Yeah.
gorgeous and
I
beautiful. She's
remember
great.
thinking, what a pretty lady with such a weird, ugly name.
Yeah.
was my childish like take on it, like Uggums.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, well, it's so strange that that lady is
You
named
want "ugh" in
Uggums.
it? Apropos of a lot of new films, there's no real tagline for American Fiction.
Oh, right, tagline. I'll tell you what, the poster of
Mhm.
him with the hoodie and gold chains and baseball cap sketched over. It's a photograph of him in his tweed teacher/author clothing. And then there
Oh, yeah, that is fantastic.
the pencil drawn gangster wear.
Yeah, that's
That's a
just a
really
brilliant.
nice poster.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I just love instead of Thug Life, his fingers are tattooed in gold and it says Thug Lie.
Oh, that's good.
Isn't that
Yeah.
great?
Yeah.
And his hat, of course, says fuck, I believe, but you can't see all of it. And a do-rag under it. It's like it calls back things in the film, even like the do-rag. Like it's just brilliant. Films like this, and they spoil viewers. You know, you shouldn't accept less. It's sad how few and far between films like this are. Brilliant films that talk about real
Mhm.
shit. But the more films like this that you see, the more the floodgates open by people who are inspired by it. Hopefully, we get
I
more smart films.
I felt like I could have watched this film without the main point, without the I'm not saying it should have been done that way, but had it been done without him writing this book, had it just been the story of a guy having a hard time and the relationships with the members of his family,
Yeah, there's
I
two
would
plots at
yeah, there
work.
exactly, and I would have come out of the just the relationships, I would have come out of that movie saying, "Wow, that was a really sweet movie."
Yeah, that's good acting for you.
Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah.
Powerhouse acting. Well,
Mhm.
great work, Dave. This was a winner.
It was, it was. Let's do more like this one.
Absolutely.
Hollis and Dave would like to thank you for enjoying Pop Culture Graveyard.